So far, I've showed you how to control color using colored gels in the studio, but there is also a lot you can do with color in post-processing, and that's what I'd like to share with you now. When I'm shooting in the studio, I always shoot tethered, which means as I'm shooting, the images are being brought into my computer and into my RAW processor, and typically that's either Capture One or Lightroom. Now the interface you see in front of you right now is Capture One, but everything I'm going to talk about would be equally valid in Lightroom. Fundamentally, you're going to be adjusting the white balance and the way that colors are seen in this file, which means you need to be shooting in RAW. Because as you make these dramatic changes to color, if you do so with a JPEG, it's going to start to deteriorate the file, deteriorate the color. And so, right now, these are images that I shot tethered into Capture One, and we're going to take a look at some of the changes we can make. The main place that I really change and control my color is over here with white balance. And white balance is fundamentally divided into two sections. The first here, indicated by Kelvin, is the color temperature. Now as you drag the slider to the left, the color temperature becomes cooler, more blue, and as you drag the slider to the right, the color temperature becomes warmer, more yellow and orange. Now in addition to color temperature, there's also tint. And the tint slider, dragging it to the left, makes the photograph more green, and dragging it to the right makes it more magenta. So of course, for creative effect, I can just drag these around and achieve different results and see what looks pleasing to me. Because the photo already has so much color to it, the white light on the left-hand side of the face over here, if I make it a different color, if I change the white balance, it's not going to look wrong. Our eye is already expecting to see unexpected color. So for example, let me show you a couple of variations I could achieve by only using my Kelvin, meaning my color temperature, and my tint. So let's say that I want the photograph to be much warmer. And let's make that white light on the left of her face look almost orange. See here how I've so drastically changed the color, but it doesn't look wrong? I'm also going to pop the contrast just a little bit. Saturates the color a teeny bit. So that is one interpretation. And I could also play with tint if I wanted. Maybe that blue, or maybe the color, it looks a little too cool. I could actually, maybe make it a little bit more green by dragging the tint to the left. No right or wrong. It's all about what's pleasing to the eye. So that's one interpretation of this file. Let's look at another. Maybe looking at this photo, I think that I want it to be even more pink and purple. And so I'm dragging my tint far to the right, and I'm going to pop my contrast. Maybe darken down the photograph. Yeah, cool it down so it's even a little bit more blue. And so now the result that I have is a very pink, purple, blue photograph. I'm going to pop the clarity, just increase it just a little bit. And so look at these two photographs side by side. Neither one is right or wrong. They achieve very different emotional responses, and they're all done just by adjusting my white balance, specifically the color temperature and the tint. Now let me show you one other approach that I sometimes will take. This one is much more about creativity and just kind of feeling it out. And so I want to introduce you to the white balance eyedropper. It's right here. I'm going to click on it. Now, this also exists in Lightroom, so it is just as equally valid whether you're using Capture One or Lightroom. Sometimes what I will do is I will click around the photograph. Just click in different places. And fundamentally what a white balance eyedropper is supposed to be doing is you're supposed to be telling the computer an area of the photo that is neutral, meaning doesn't have any color to it. Typically this would be a gray card. Well, here I'm doing the exact opposite, and I'm actually trying to make something with a lot of color appear neutral. I can get her skin tone looking almost correct in this example simply by clicking around and selecting different areas of the face. So this is another interpretation of color in this photograph. Now let me actually reset that, and we're going to select a photo where she's facing the other way. Watch what happens when I click on the eyedropper here. I can actually click on this transition, and as I do, it's giving me drastically different results. So let's say I like here. All right, let's say I like the color that I'm seeing there. Her face is looking kind of bluish green. but it also looks like that white light is now orange. Well, what happens if I wanted to change the color, almost like change the color gel that's hitting her face? Well, there are other tools that exist. Now, depending on the processor you're working with, you're going to see it in different places. In Lightroom, you'd be looking at hue, saturation, luminance to change the color. In Capture One, there is a tool called the Color Editor. What I can do is I can click on, let's say, that area of her face, and I'm selecting this kind of bluish teal color. You can see over here on the color wheel on the left, that's what it's selected. And now I can change the hue, so I can make it a little bit more blue, or I can make it a little bit more green. I can increase the saturation of that individual color. So that's one of the benefits in this instance of using Capture One, is because I can target individual colors and change them quite drastically. And I can also fade it from one color to the next. What you want to keep in mind is that for these photographs, again, this is completely non-destructive. So I'll be shooting tethered, I'll be making changes to the color so I can visualize how I'm changing the color in post-processing, and I can copy the effect and apply it to another photograph to get similar results. So as you look at all of the different interpretations of this file, you see that there are very different colors and very different answers. And the whole point is that there is no right or wrong answer. It is all about your creativity, about color, color harmony, and experimenting. So what I want you to take away from this video is that achieving color in camera is one part of the process, and using gels is one part of the process. But of course, post-processing is part of the creative process, and you should consider that just as much when it comes to controlling color.